Hey, Assalamu alaikum, Anse Amani. Welcome to another session of Behind the Scenes with Rabata Youth Programs. I'm really excited to have you here, alhamdulillah, and I know that you've got a busy, jam-packed schedule, so I really appreciate your time. And for everyone who's joining us, I'm here as the Director of Development at Rabata, and this end of year, we are focusing our efforts in fortifying the future, meaning we want to make sure that our kids have places to learn, safe people to teach them, and the resources that they need to grow and cultivate their confidence as young Muslims, inshallah. So we have hope in the future. And I think a lot of our teachers talked about that feeling of like, oh, it's so nice to see kids getting excited about religion. And now we have Anse Amani here, who is a graduate of the Rabat Teacher Certification, mashallah, also a Northwestern graduate in engineering, if I'm not mistaken. And you've been teaching in your local community in Indiana for many years. You have four children, and you are just spearheading in the space of positive cultural change as your amazing self. And you're a parent of a Rabbateen.
I
Alhamdulillah.
am.
So what is
Alhamdulillah.
that like? Give us the behind the scenes look at what it feels like to be a parent and have a kid in a Rabbata youth program.
Okay, well, I'm going to take a little step back and kind of give you guys a little bit of my history just so you can kind of see where, like the joy of having my daughter turn 13. She's 15 now, but the joy of her having her turn 13 to be able to take a double team course. So back when she was younger, and her brothers were younger, and Ribat had just started, and I had started taking Ribat courses. They were constantly like, "Why can't we take classes?" And I was like, "Well, it's an online space, and they had Sunday school and things like that, but they just thought it was so cool to have, classmates and doing work and people all over the world, and they just thought that was the coolest thing. And as she got older, she kind of, would sit nearby when I was taking classes and things like that. So she was really anticipating wanting to take these Ribat's courses. And of course, 17 is a long time away when you're, 9 or 10 old. So then when Rebel Teens came around, she was like, okay, great, I can take this. And I think maybe it's 12, not 13, that Rebel Teens courses students can enroll, if not mistaken. And so she was really excited when she turned 12 that she could finally take a double teens course. That first year, there were, scheduling and timings, and, she had, I don't know, sports or something where it didn't work out. But then as she got into, I guess it was eighth grade. So when she turned 13, we had moved. And we had moved cities. We were 3 hours away from everything she knew her whole life. And it was hard. It was hard for all of us, but it was especially hard for her to kind of meet people and connect and make friends. And she had a really rough time for that first semester, I would say. And that's when the Double Teens classes were just like a godsend because she enrolled and suddenly all these names she'd heard me say before, Anse Afsha, Anse Farhana, Anse Leila, I can't remember a couple of other Anisat. She took her first, Auntie Najia, Auntie Iman Rabbas. She took all these people that were mom's friends, that were mom's teachers. She was finally able to take courses with them. And so she felt a connection. So while she was still kind of figuring out her way here locally, she had a, like a friendship or like a community kind of behind the screen that she could, go back to and kind of feel, that she has people that she can connect with. So alhamdulillah, it worked out really well. She actually admined her first class recently as well. So she was really excited to be an admin. So that was kind of her
Wow.
developing in the program. Yeah. So she was really excited about that.
Alhamdulillah. I love that. I love that the teens get opportunities to also get their volunteer hours and contribute, right, in spaces that they love. So I know the youth program, like they've been working with the teens and going, okay, you can also help out. And I mean, it gives them community service hours, gives them a sense of belonging and community and that ownership of different tasks. And they're online anyway. Like they,
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
they're better at it than we are.
That's right. That's right.
Alhamdulillah. Is there a class that particularly resonated with her?
So she really enjoyed a lot of her classes. The first class that I think really, if you want to say, reeled her in and kind of got her hooked was the tafsir of Surah Tabarak with Ansi Farhana. And she actually that class really got her hooked for two reasons. One, because I mean, she just loved the class. She was learning Surah Tabarak at the time. She kind of learned the value of reading it every night, and she really connected with Ansi Farhana. But she also had some local friends that had, one of the moms had asked me, "Is there anything for teens?" I was like, "Well, Lujane is taking this course," and so a couple of her local friends actually took the class with her. So that kind of brought her two worlds together, and she really enjoyed that. And then they were able to kind of outside of the weekly class, they would meet, or if they saw each other, they would kind of talk about it, and they had something to connect over. And then as well, she just enjoyed being able to apply the class right away because she was started reading it every night after taking that course. And since then, she's been taking courses so that she's really enjoyed.
Oh, mashallah. And I know you dabbled as an instructor too in robotics. Tell us about your
Yeah.
classes and your experience.
So I taught two different classes. I taught one about time management for teens, which was really great because we just broke it because the 5 week sessions, we broke it down into five different categories of how to, different suggestions of how to manage time, different techniques. I mean, there's so many techniques out there, so many different books and things like that. So I just grabbed from, five of the major, trends, if you will. And we kind of just delved into those at each different week and, kind of brought them all together saying, there's no perfect one answer of how to manage your time, but there's a lot of different suggestions to keep yourself on track. That one was really fun. The girls seemed to enjoy it a lot. I had a lot of high schoolers in that class, which was really nice because high school is when you really need to manage your time well, especially with the workload and APs and things like that. The other class I taught was about healthy eating. And I don't have a degree in nutrition or anything like that, but I did work in it kind of on the side, kind of part time for years before I actually joined before Rabata actually started. And so I had a background in that and just helping them make better choices. I know people have heard the book "Eat That, Eat This, Not That" or something like that. It's not like that because that one just kind of swaps out one food for another. So that was part of what we talked about, but we really talked about, eating foods that actually nourish your body and your brain, that help you, face the challenges that you're going to need to do in time management. So it kind of went hand in hand a little bit.
I mean, I love that there's lifestyle skills woven into these classes because, I mean, like you said, in high school, like they're really interested. They're really interested in figuring out how they can be better adults. And when I was speaking with Anse Farhana, she was talking about even the boys, like, the 11 and 12-year-old boys that she was teaching for dragonflies, like when you give them that sense of autonomy and that responsibility, like they're kind of like, oh, okay, now I can walk forward. And so with our teen girls, mashallah, like having that opportunity to connect with mentors and like your daughter, like, just seeing familiar faces. Like my daughter has taken Robotine's classes. Like always like give her the course list. I'm like, here's the link. What do you like? And the Robotine's, I know that Anse Iman, who's the director of education, she's always emphasizing you can't force your kid to take a class. So there's no one here in the classroom who is coerced, whose parents are forcing them to sit down. It's just not a healthy experience being forced to be here. So I give her a list and then she'll choose something. But she'll kind of gravitate towards people she's familiar with or like, oh, I've seen her, I've heard her. And alhamdulillah, with Rabata instructors, I mean, we're on YouTube right now. But there's also that feeling of the comfort level that, okay, this is a public facing person who has that understanding that okay, I'm representing an organization, so I have to behave and act in a certain way. So that code of conduct. Like I don't have qualms about my daughter being in a Rebbe Teens class. I'm like, okay, like the content she's going to get will be wholesome and great and wonderful. I should have her take your healthy eating class if you ever take it. I should be like, there are other
I
options.
think it's long overdue. I will fully admit, and I know this is being recorded, don't let the girls hear this, but without that reminder, without like support from others, I've slipped a little in my eating as well. So, it's really important to have that community of, people that, accountability and really encouraging each other. So it's definitely an important class that we probably need to bring back, inshallah, sometime.
Inshallah. Yes, I'm glad I sparked that.
Awesome.
Inshallah. So I can't wait to see you again teaching, alhamdulillah. And for everyone who's, wondering about Roboteens and Dragonflies, registration is open right now. And also the opportunity to donate is also available and open till the end of the year. Our goal is $100,000. Inshallah, we are 20% of the way there, which is fantastic. Alhamdulillah, still a couple of weeks left. So definitely, think about where your donations are going this end of year. Rabata is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit. Donations are tax deductible. And then you get to fortify the future, fortify the youth, give girls and boys the sense of community and belonging, like with Anse Amani and her daughter, mashallah. I mean, Indiana is, oh, you grew up in Chicago, so Indiana is different, right?
Yeah,
Growing
I
up.
mean, well, we moved into a more diverse section of Indiana, but for, the majority of her life, she was living in, small town in the South. So we definitely needed this online community to kind of just, remind us all, myself and my kids, of, who we are and that we're not unique in who we are. There's people all over the world like us, even though we may not find them so much in our local community. I did want to say one more thing, if you don't mind.
I'm here. Yes.
Just the you reminded me of something when you said you can't force anyone to take classes. If you force them, they're not going to like it, they're not going to sit through it, they're not going to benefit from it. And I totally agree with that. And I just, I'm looking at the how my daughter has evolved. Like, at first she was a little timid, but she wanted to take a class. And then she took a class, she took a second class. I think the third one was her Tabarak that really sparked her interest and really got her going. And now she's at the point where when she gets the email of, okay, the list of classes, she opens it before I even do it. And I think maybe she sees it on social media as well. But this last time, she's like, Mom, I was like, what? She's like, I can't take any double team courses. I was like, well, why? And she's like, she was really upset. And I was like, what's going on? And she's like, well, she recently took a new job. And she's like, they're all the time I work. And I was like, oh, because she works on weekends. And so she went from kind of being, in the year and a half, she went from being kind of timid of taking courses at all and really hesitant, but she wanted to the point where now she's like, oh God, I may have to quit my job, to keep up with my double team courses, which is amazing, right? She's just doing the job for fun. So she's, now looking into modifying her work schedule so that she can take the courses that she wants to take. So alhamdulillah, I think that speaks volumes of the quality of classes that Rabatin is giving, and not just the content of the classes, but the actual connection with the teachers, as I think what's more important to me than the actual content. And she's really been benefiting so much. And the students, I think she's getting to know a lot of these students, even that aren't her friends locally that have taken courses. So alhamdulillah, I think it's a great program. And I really think that, it's such an amazing program that we can continue to support, inshallah.
Inshallah. I love it. And I mean, you reminded me of like that evolution of us as, just maybe thinking back on when we were 14 or
Yeah,
16 years old and we had questions. There wasn't really, there weren't really resources to go to. You either had your friends, probably didn't know as much, and
yeah,
also your parents who also, are trying to give you knowledge and information, but maybe it's just not clicking. And so with my daughter too, I noticed, that, okay, she understands that if something sounds questionable, she'll just come and ask. She'll, and now she's at a point, and I think it's because of the Robotine's classes that she's had that, okay, there's stuff that people say and believe, but it may not be authentic to what like religious teachings are.
yeah.
And so just having that sounding board, having that awareness of like, oh, okay, things are, not always as they're presented. So let me ask questions. So that, getting to speak up, getting to ask questions. I love that. I love that in the girls too, where they're just whoosh, and sometimes, you just make sense. SubhanAllah, like logically things just
Totally.
make
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. It's always
sense.
good to have the double, as a parent, it's always good to have the double team teachers like emphasizing the same things you say at home, but it just doesn't sound the same when mom says it or dad says it, but when a double team teacher says it, oh, I'll do it for sure.
And there's such a safety subhanAllah, because I know that a safety net around the students too, because sometimes I'll be texting if I know who's teaching, for example, I'll be like, oh, this is my classmate who's teaching this class. I'm just like, hey, how'd it go? My daughter was it. She's like, I'm not gonna talk about it. And I'm
Yep.
like, it's your daughter's experience, not yours. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Of course,
And
if
that's
there's a
another
problem or
good
something,
point.
but just, I love that it's that safe space where even the girls know, these, moms and aunties can't necessarily like intrude upon the space. So alhamdulillah for safe spaces of learning too, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
All right, well, I can't wait to see your daughter in another class and you
Oh,
teaching, inshallah, again for
inshallah.
routines. Yay,
Inshallah.
alhamdulillah. All right, thank you for joining, and everyone
Thank
visit
you.
rabata.org/support and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Alaikum. Thank you.